Sometimes, I wonder if my life would be different if my dad hadn't died that spring morning. I was only 6, but I remember it clearly. He was making pancakes, his Sunday tradition. He always made them into funny shapes that made me laugh. Mom was setting the table and humming a tune I can't remember now. "Lily, princess, come help your old man flip these pancakes," Dad called, waving his spatula like a magic wand. I jumped off the couch and ran to the kitchen, leaving my stuffed bunny behind. That's when it happened. Dad dropped the spatula and grabbed his chest. His face showed pain. Everything after that was a blur: sirens, the hospital, and Mom crying. Just like that, Dad was gone. The house felt too big and too quiet. Mom didn't cry for long. She met a man named Richard in a group for parents who lost their partners. He seemed nice, tall, kind eyes, and a soft smile that reminded me of Dad. Within a year, they got married and he moved in. I was still getting used to Richard when Mom told me she was pregnant. She looked so happy when she told me I would be a big sister. I was 8 when Tommy was born, and everything changed. Mom quit her job as a teacher. "Tommy needs me," she would say. "The early years are so important." I wanted to ask if my early years were important too, but I stayed quiet. Slowly, Mom's world began to revolve only around Tommy. She would forget to pack my lunch and act surprised when I said I was hungry. "Oh, sorry, sweetie," she'd say, already focused on Tommy. I was busy with his doctor's appointment. It happened a lot. It became normal. Richard noticed. He would frown when Mom ignored me. One night, while I was doing homework, he sat with me. "Sometimes people get so focused on one thing," he said, "they forget everything else." As Tommy grew up, things got worse. Richard tried to talk to Mom about her obsession with Tommy, but she always got angry. Once, at dinner, Tommy was playing with his food. Mom kept pushing him to eat. Richard said, "Sarah, we need to talk. You can't keep doing everything for him. He needs to grow up." Mom got mad. "Are you saying I'm a bad mother?" "No," Richard said calmly, "but you have 2 kids, and a husband too." I stared at my mashed potatoes, pretending not to listen. "Tommy needs me," Mom snapped. I was young too, I whispered, but no one heard. It got worse when Richard suggested Tommy join Little League Baseball. I was doing homework on the stairs when I heard them fighting. "Absolutely not," Mom shouted. "Baseball is too dangerous." "For God's sake, Sarah, he needs to live life. You can't protect him from everything." But she didn't change her mind. Instead, she signed him up for art classes. Tommy didn't like them and quit after 3 sessions. Mom blamed the teacher. Meanwhile, Richard spent more time with me. He took me to karate and cheered me on. Maybe he wanted to make up for what Mom didn't do. Tommy became harder to deal with. His room was always a mess, and Mom started asking me to clean it. "Lily, be a dear and clean up Tommy's room," she'd say, like I had no choice. One day, Richard found out. "She's not his maid," he told Mom. "He should clean up after himself." Mom started crying. "I knew it. You love her more than your own son." Richard looked tired and sad. He gave up arguing. "Fine, have it your way," he said and walked away. After that, he didn't fight with Mom anymore, but he still looked out for me. That meant everything. Graduation day was bittersweet. Richard looked proud. Mom was there, but she kept checking her phone, probably texting about Tommy. That evening, Richard called me into his study. "I've been saving money," he said. "You can go to any college you want." Before I could answer, Mom stormed in. "You're kidding. That money should be for Tommy." Richard's face went cold. "This is not up for discussion. I've made my decision." I chose Marshall University in West Virginia, far enough to start over. When I moved into my dorm, Richard helped me. Mom didn't come. Tommy had anxiety about her leaving. College was what I needed. For the first time, I felt free. I called home every week, but I mostly talked to Richard. Mom was always too busy with Tommy. Your brother is in a rough patch, Richard said one night. He sounded tired. He's hanging out with the wrong crowd. I tried to sign him up for after-school programs, but your mother. Let me guess, I said. She said you're too strict? Exactly, Richard sighed. She thinks I don't understand how sensitive he is. As Tommy got worse, I visited home less. When I did come back, Tommy stayed in his room playing video games. He looked pale and angry. Mom just shrugged when I tried to talk to him. He's stressed, she'd say, walking away. Meanwhile, I stayed in West Virginia after graduation. I got a consulting job at DOE and built my career. Tommy sank deeper into video games and bad friends. Once, I knocked on his door. Tommy, want to grab lunch? My treat? All I heard was gunfire from his game. Mom shrugged again, he's not feeling social. By age 27, I'd saved enough to buy my own place, a one-bedroom apartment in a nice neighborhood. I was so proud when I got the keys. I'm having a housewarming next Saturday, I told them on our call. I'll cook lasagna, Richard's favorite. Wouldn't miss it, Richard said warmly. Mom's voice broke in, oh, honey. Tommy has plans that day. Plans? I said. What plans? Very important ones, she said, vaguely. On the day of the party, only Richard came. He brought a plant and wine. Your mother sends her love, he said softly. We both knew she would not come. Over dinner, Richard told me what was happening. Tommy, now 20, never went to college. He spent his days gaming or drinking with friends. Richard even offered him a job at his construction company, but Mom said it would be beneath Tommy. He's too smart for manual work, she said. Too smart to work, but not too smart to mooch, I muttered. Richard just looked sad. That was our last real talk. 2 years later, I got the worst call. Richard collapsed at work, heart attack, just like Dad. He was gone by the time I arrived at the hospital. The funeral felt unreal. Mom cried loudly and told everyone how wonderful Richard was. We were so happy, she wailed. How will we manage? I knew her tears were for the money, not for Richard. Without Richard's income, she'd have to sell things to keep Tommy comfortable. Tommy didn't bother to dress up. He wore wrinkled khakis and stared at his phone. Mom made excuses, he's grieving in his own way. Standing by Richard's grave, I saw how history had repeated itself. Another father figure lost. Another funeral. This time, I understood Mom's tears were about her bank account, not her heart. A year later, I barely heard from them. Aunt Linda called sometimes. They're living on Richard's savings, she said. Mom sold his car last month, and his tools before that. I tried not to care. But when Mom called one Tuesday, my heart skipped. Lily? Please come home. Her voice sounded small. I booked a flight for the next day. When I arrived at our old house, it looked forgotten. The lawn was overgrown, paint was peeling, and a shutter hung crooked. Inside, Mom looked 20 years older. Her face was lined, her hair faded to gray at the roots. Come in, she said, leading me to the living room. The whole house smelled musty. Dirty dishes piled up. Mom, what happened? I asked, sitting down. A broken spring poked my leg, the kind Richard would have fixed right away. She broke down almost immediately. We're running out of money, Lily. My pension barely covers the bills. And our savings. She twisted her hands together. They're almost gone. I asked, what about Tommy? Is he helping pay? Mom's face shifted between shame and defensiveness. He's looking for work. It's not his fault, employers just don't understand him. The last place wanted him in at 8 a.m. And you know he's not a morning person. And another job was manual labor. With his intelligence? I felt my jaw clench. Mom, At his age and with no experience. He can't be picky. You don't understand. She cut in, her voice rising. Then she froze and her tone softened. Lily, we need your help. We won't make it otherwise. You're doing so well. I knew what was coming. Part of me wanted to say no, to remind her how she'd always chosen Tommy over me, but her tired face and pleading eyes stopped me. How much do you need? When she said $500 a month, I nearly choked. That was a big chunk of my salary. Still, I nodded. Where's Tommy now? I asked as I got ready to leave. Oh, at a job interview. She brightened. A really good one with a tech company. Through the window, I saw Tommy's room light and his computer screen glowing. Some things never change. I set up an automatic transfer of $1,500 to her account each month. Every time I saw the money leave, I told myself it was the right thing, even if it delayed my own plans. I started visiting more often, but it felt like stepping back in time. Tommy was always there, glued to his computer or sprawled on the couch with a beer. How's the job hunt? I'd ask. Mind your own business, he'd snap. That Christmas, I used my bonus to hire contractors and fix the peeling wallpaper and water stain on the ceiling. When Mom sprained her ankle in February, I called. How's your ankle? I asked. It's fine, she said, sounding in pain. Is Tommy helping? He's busy with online interviews. The next day, I hired a home aide with my vacation money. Then I came home and found a stranger on the sofa, fake nails, heavy makeup, skimpy clothes, surrounded by chip bags and soda cans. Who are you? I asked. Tommy came out and said, This is Candy, my fiancée. She lives here now. Candy didn't look up. She popped her gum and grabbed a cookie from my grocery bag. Nice to meet you too, I muttered. That night I called Mom. Mom, there's a woman living here, I said. Oh, Lily, she gushed. Isn't it wonderful? Candy's so good for Tommy. He hasn't gone out drinking in weeks, and she's got him talking to a tech startup. I thought of all the big breaks Tommy had promised before, but I stayed quiet. Mom was so happy I didn't have the heart to ruin it. My next visit, I walked in with groceries and stopped dead. The house looked wrecked, dirty dishes piled high, takeout everywhere, clothes on the floor. Candy lay on the couch, tapping her phone. You live here free, eating the food I pay for, I said sharply. The least you could do is wash a dish. She looked up with a smirk. Who do you think you are? This isn't your house. I grew up here, I said. Mom started crying right away. We're almost out of money, Lily. My pension barely pays the bills, and our savings, she wrung her hands. They're gone. I asked, Is Tommy helping with money? Mom looked embarrassed. He's trying to find work. Employers don't get him. One job wanted him at 8 a.m., and you know he's not a morning person. Another was manual labor, and he's too smart for that. I clenched my jaw. Mom, he's young and has no experience. He can't be picky. You don't understand, she snapped. Then she softened. Lily, please help us. We can't survive without your help. You're doing so well. I knew what was next. I wanted to refuse, remind her of how she'd always favored Tommy. But seeing her face, I agreed. How much do you need? $500 a month, she said. I nearly choked but nodded anyway. Where is Tommy now? I asked on my way out. He's at a job interview, a good one at a tech company, she said brightly. Through the window, I saw his room light and the glow of his computer. Nothing changes. I set up an automatic $1,500 transfer every month. Each deduction stung, but I told myself it was right, even though it delayed my own dreams. I visited more, but it felt like stepping back in time. Tommy stayed glued to his computer or drank on the couch. If I asked about his job hunt, he'd grunt or snap, mind your own business. That Christmas, I used my bonus to fix the peeling wallpaper and the ceiling water stain. When Mom sprained her ankle in February, I hired a home aide with my vacation savings. One day I came home to a stranger on the couch, fake nails, heavy makeup, skimpy clothes, surrounded by chip bags and soda cans. Tommy announced, "This is Candy, my fiancée. She lives here now." Candy didn't look up. She grabbed cookies I'd brought. I called Mom. She gushed, "Isn't Candy wonderful?" She stopped Tommy's bad friends and got him talking to a tech startup. I stayed silent. Mom was so happy I couldn't shake her hope. The next visit, I walked in with groceries and froze. Dishes were piled high, takeout boxes everywhere, clothes on the floor. Candy lay on the couch, tapping her phone. "You live here free, eating my groceries," I said. "The least you could do is wash a dish." Candy smirked. "This isn't your house." "I grew up here," I said. Then Candy laughed. "You're wrong. This house is Tommy's now. Your mom signed it over, there's a will." I found Mom clipping in used coupons in the kitchen. "Is it true?" I whispered. "You left everything to Tommy?" Mom avoided my eyes, then said flatly, "Yes." "I don't get it," I said. "I've been sending money every month." "Tommy does nothing to help." Mom's voice rose. "You don't understand him, he's not a parasite. He's perfect, and I never loved you like I love him. I don't want you here anymore." Her words hit me like a punch. 21 years of hoping ended with that. I walked out. Candy's triumphant laugh followed me. The drive home, the climb up to my apartment, even sitting down on my couch, all a blur. But I remember looking at my bank app and seeing the $1,500 transfers. I tapped cancel recurring payment. For weeks, I threw myself into work. I started planning how to invest the money I'd been sending, maybe a down payment on a real house. Exactly 1 month later, Mom called. The money didn't come through. "There must be a bank mistake." "There's no mistake," I said calmly. "I canceled it." She went silent, then exploded, "How dare you? After everything I did for you." I laughed. "Everything you did? Like forgetting me, making me clean Tommy's mess, telling me you never loved me?" Mom screamed, "You can't stop helping us. Tommy and Candy need a vacation to Cancun." I cut in, "Tommy needs a job, not a vacation." I hung up and blocked her number. Over the next weeks, messages flooded in from Mom, Tommy, and even Candy, on Facebook, Instagram, email, LinkedIn, blaming me, begging for money. I blocked them all. It's been 6 months now. I don't know how they're doing, and I don't feel guilty. Maybe they've learned to support themselves. Maybe they're still waiting for me to cave. I don't care. The $1,500 I used to send goes into my house fund now. I sleep better, no more angry calls or guilt trips. I know Richard would be proud that I finally stood up for myself. The other day I passed a now hiring sign at a construction site. For a moment I thought about texting Tommy a picture. Then I smiled and drove on. Their problems aren't mine anymore. After all these years, I'm free.